Good morning. We're learning the Daf Yomi for today, Tractate Eruvin, page 33, and holding in chapter 3. The name of the chapter is Bakol Me'arvin. We're making Eruv with many different things, Bakol Me'arvin, and we'll start from Umay Lamala, Umay Lamata. The Gemara questions the wording of the Mishnah, and if the Eruv is located at the end of a branch which extends outward, what is the meaning of above 10 tfachim and below 10 tfachim? If you look at number 5, as descriptive terms, above and below apply only to an entity that has higher and lower points. For a tree branch that stretches horizontally, as you can see in the diagram, those terms are not appropriate. The entire branch is either high or low. Rather, a description of the entire branch location vis-a-vis the ground is required. Hence, the Mishnah should have referred to the branch as being higher or lower than 10 tfachim from the ground. I guess the primary thing is how high it is located from the ground.
And then the picture there shows a flat ground, but what if it was like on a hill too, you know? So it would be...
But the case over here of the Mishnah is somebody placed the Eruv on a tree. So we said if you're higher than 10 tfachim or lower than 10 tfachim. So went through a whole discussion of how is it helping me if you can't really touch it. Not supposed to touch the branches on Shabbat. Right. So what did we answer? That by the twilight zone it was okay, so it continues to be okay, even though you can't really touch it. But the Eruv is not for eating. You should be able to eat it if you want to.
Whenever we were like camping, a lot of times we put like a big rope up and put all our stuff so bears don't come to the camp and everything's hanging. Like you just lower the rope when you want to access it, because you do something like a pulley system like that where you just strap it up there so the food's technically up, but then when you need it, just lower when you're able to do something like that.
Well, the thing is, we learned that if you, in general, you can turn the area where you're putting the Eruv to be a private domain. The moment that you make it a private domain, even if it's very high, it's still yours. That's to learn, because your house, even the sky is yours. The sky above the house is yours, right? I'm not allowed to put a drone over your house. So, I'm not touching your house. So legally, you own the air rights also. Right. In New York, people buy air rights. Actually, our dear president bought one of his famous business deals was that he would buy air rights, which means, let's say, the zoning on building a skyscraper would be 20 stories, and next to him there was a church. So the church is not going to build 20-story high, but they're allowed to. So he went to the city, county, and he says to them, I'm going to pay the church X amount of money, so I now can build 40, and they would never be able to build. So I'm going to use their air rights. So he bought air from them, but really enabled himself to build higher. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's a famous story.
Yeah. The Art of the Deal, he has a book and he says, writes it over there. Yeah, that's thinking out of the box, right? Buying air rights.
In movies, it can be like that sometimes, where you buy the song rights and then you buy like the character rights because you want to make a toy for the kids. And you have the toy rights,
right.
And you have the this rights.
My wife has a cousin that makes. He makes special like tunes for movies.
Yeah.
Like if you hear like background music and you hear background, so he makes it for them. Wow. And they pay for it. They can't just use whatever.
Similar but different. I heard yesterday that, Kabbalah Center?
There used to be.
It's out of business for a year. Oh, they closed?
It's closed. They sold it to a school, Olympus something.
Yeah. You know what they did? I knew yesterday. They bring you a piece of
Air.
No.
Or sand.
Sand. They sell you sand from Israel. So if you buy a piece of land of Israel, you don't have to do Shnei Yamim Tovim. You do this one, like Israel. You respect only one day of Yamim Tovim.
Well, halachically, if you go by yourself, you don't have to do 2 days. If you travel to Israel, let's say
but from here.
Right, let's say here.
You stay here, but you have a land in Israel because you bought for them for $5,000 sand from Israel.
No,
so now you're exempt.
That's off.
I discovered yesterday because
but I know you're buying it. You can buy it, and people use it for burial. Was to be buried with some of the sand of Eretz Yisrael. I saw many times the rabbi in funerals that he take a little bag and he pulls it, but he probably pays $1 for it. He doesn't pay.
For $5,000.
Already the deal.
Yeah. So, but the issue starts when it's a Shuta Rabim. I guess when it's a place that is very traffic-like, then you can't really turn it into. What we learned yesterday is that you have 4 amot. So the place where you left the Eruv Tchumin, that it allows you to walk another 2,000 amot, acquires immediately 4 amot of every 4 amot. Yeah, but the problem is with these trees that if it's sticking out, like the branch is sticking out, so it's more than 4 amot. So what do you do then? Are you allowed to carry around that area? And if it's too high, also. So the Gemara says the Adar Zokif, after extending beyond 4 amot, the branch turns upward. So it has even a little sloping up. Since the horizontal portion of the branch is below 10 tfachim, the branch contains points which are above and below 10 tfachim. So the Gemara again objects to this interpretation of the Mishnah. But even when the Eruv lies above 10 tfachim, it should be valid, because if he wishes, he could climb the tree, takes his Eruv from the Reshus HaYochid, upon which it rests, and bring it over the branch to a place in the tree above his Shabbos residence, located at the base. So the Gemara answers by further qualifying the case. K'sherabim mechatfin olav, on the part of the branch that extends beyond 4 amis and is lower than 10 tfachim, the public adjust their burdens. They would stop, they would take off their backpacks, put them back on. That's what the meaning mechatfin. It's like the word of katef. They're like helping their shoulders by adjusting their burdens, whatever they're carrying on their back. It's like almost like a resting area, but made primarily to fix your burden. And according to Ula, the Amar Ula, Amud Tisha B'Av B'Reshus HaRabim, a pillar 9 tfachim high that stands in public domain, V'Rabim Mechatfin Olav, and the public adjust the burdens on this 9 tfachim, let's say 45 inches about a high pole, that people come and adjust their burdens. This we learned in the laws of Shabbos, that if someone threw an object 4 amis, right? Somebody stood in public domain and he threw an object 4 amis, not allowed to carry 4 amis in Reshus HaRabim, in public domain. This guy took it and he threw it, and it landed exactly on that pillar, that pole, the 9 tfachim high. He is liable for committing a biblical transgression. Why? Because that pole is considered private domain, since the object was removed from and deposited onto Rishus Rabim. So earlier, or if he did it from Rishus Hayochid to Rishus Rabim. Let's see the case again. If one stood in the Rishus Rabim and threw an object 4 amos, and it landed on the pillar, he is liable for committing a biblical transgression, since the object was removed from and deposited onto the Rishus Rabim. So it's not considered from taking it from one Rishus to another, but even carrying it from the same Rishus. Meaning that I'm still treating that 9, only when it's 10 it's considered, if the pillar was 10 it's considered private domain. If it's 9, it's Rishus Hayochid. So the fact that it landed, I'm still treating it as Rishus Rabim. Or because there was 4 amos, is liable. Earlier on 30b and 32b, the Gemara mentioned a dispute between the rabbis and Rebbe, whether rabbinical decrees apply during the twilight period. Remember? The Gemara now cites the source of this dispute. We spoke about the twilight period before, that you're saying since he was capable of taking it off the tree at twilight zone, it should be okay. What is the source of the Rebbe's ruling and what is the source of the Rabbi's ruling? The Tanya. If you place the Eruv in a tree above 10 tefachim from the ground, Ein Eruvoi Eruv. His Eruv is not a valid Eruv. Lamata Masor tefachim. If you place it lower than 10 tefachim, Eruv Eruv. His Eruv is valid. Right? That was the Mishnah. Now, because it was accessible to him during twilight, then the rabbinical prohibition against using trees is not enforced. Remember, we said, why is it rabbinical? No, but why is it rabbinical to use trees? In Shabbat, you're not allowed to cut a branch from the tree. You're not allowed to cut fruits from the trees or leaves. So the rabbi said you shouldn't even touch the tree. You shouldn't climb on the tree. You shouldn't move the branches because it might happen. Right? It's
so is it the bark? Like the bark?
It could break a twig even.
Is it like sometimes some trees have like really loose bark around them, so you just touch it, it
could fall down.
Like the palm
but the point is, but biblically there's no problem touching the tree. Rabbinically they said don't touch it, don't climb on it because it might happen. So now we are permitting him, according to this, we are permitting him to come in and place Eruv less than 10 tefachim. We're giving him permission to do it. Eruv or Eruv, we said that his Eruv is considered a valid Eruv because it was accessible to him during twilight, when the rabbinical prohibition against using the trees is not enforced. During twilight there is no problem, according to the rabbis. And it is prohibited to take the Eruv off the tree during the Shabbos itself. But if you place the Eruv on the tree within 3 tefachim from the ground, it is permissible to take it off the tree even on Shabbos itself. Again, if you place the Eruv 3 tefachim within 3 tefachim from the ground, it's like the concept of lavud, that is considered as if it's on the ground. Even though since it's only 3 tefachim, which is 15 inches, it's considered like it's in the ground. Which we apply it in the laws of sukkah. If you have the dolphin of the sukkah doesn't touch the ground. Let's say it has 2 poles from here and here, and it's a little bit off the ground. If it's too much off the ground, then you don't have a real dolphin. You don't have a real side. But if it's a little bit off the ground, it's still okay because that's the law of lavud. We are considering it as if it touches the ground. So over here also, if it's less than 3, is allowed to take it on Shabbos itself. It is permissible to take it off the tree even on Shabbos itself. And the Eruv is certainly valid. And if you place the Eruv in a basket and hung it on a tree, so he left the food that the 2 meals that we learned that he needs to have, say egg and a few other things he has in a basket, and he took the basket hanging it on the tree now. Maybe he was afraid that raccoons and animals will eat it. I don't know, they probably can climb also. But anyway, so hanging it on the tree, even if he placed it more than 10 tfachim, Eruv is valid.
Why?
Let's see. Divrei Rabbi, these are the words of Rabbi. What's the difference? The only difference now between this case and the case that we learned before is that he put it in a basket. Before we didn't learn about a basket. We learned about putting the food on a tree, directly on the tree. Now this is in a basket. The rabbi said, Rabbi said, if you're not allowed to take it on Shabbos off the tree, it's not an Eruv. Meaning the rabbis don't care if you put it in a basket or in a plate. You put it on a tree and you cannot touch the tree on Shabbos, you cannot climb the tree on Shabbos, it's not an Eruv. But according to Rabbi, it is an Eruv. Let's see what's the reasoning behind it.
Rabbi, it's above 10 tefachim.
Yeah, but
Right.
it hangs down.
But let's say,
Like a swing, like a swing, David.
but let's say even if it's
Huh?
swing is like people like.
Okay.
So if it's hanging on the tree, some of the swings are attached to a tree, right? But the point he is trying to tell you that if let's say this is the basket, and it's hanging less than 10, he placed a 10 higher than 10, but if you measure from the bottom, maybe less than 10. But that's not what Rabbi says. Rabbi says, I don't care even if it's higher than 10 for him, it's still okay, since it's in a basket.
That's
But
my question, Rabbi. It's not only 10 tefachim, it's above 10 tefachim. It's
Above.
not okay.
According to the rabbis, but according to Rabbi, it's okay. But we have to see what's the reasoning behind it. The rabbis already told you, if you can't touch it on Shabbos, it's no good. That's the reasoning. They said, Kol makom, when the Eruv is located any place from which to take the Eruv on Shabbos is prohibited, any Eruv. It's not a good Eruv. Invalid Eruv. V'chachamim oimrim. So the Baisa stated, and the sages say, Ahayo, on what part the rabbi's statement are they arguing? When you say v'chachom, it means that they're arguing. What do they argue about? If we say that the sages dispute the last part of Rabbi's statement, and therefore rule that the Eruv is invalid because, in their view, the rabbinical injunction against using trees, including removing object from even a basket hanging on a tree, and that this prohibition extends to twilight as well. The prohibition extends to twilight. Shall it be said that the rabbis hold that objects hanging from the sides of a tree are included in the prohibition against using a tree? Question mark. Is it that far? The rabbis are going that far to say that even if objects are hanging from the tree, they are forbidden? Rather, their opposition centers, meaning their argument with Rabbi, centers on the first part of the Baita, where Rabbi ruled that an Eruv placed within 10 tfachim off the ground is valid. Look at 21. It says, nevertheless, Rabbi ruled that the Eruv may not be taken once the Shabbos has begun. So even Rabbi says, don't take it. Leave it alone once Shabbos commenced, due to the prohibition against using trees. So he agrees with them. There is a prohibition against using trees on Shabbat. Rabbis, however, maintain that even when the Eruv occupies the Rishus Rabbi, when the branch is 9 tfachim off the ground, and the public uses it to adjust their loads, so many people are using this branch, it's a Rishus Rabbim. So the taking the Eruv does not involve the malacha of transferring. Nevertheless, since taking it on the Shabbos is rabbinically forbidden because of the ban on the use of trees, taking it during twilight when the Shabbos may have commenced is also forbidden, because we're not sure if twilight is Shabbos or not. So it should also be forbidden. Hence, the Eruv is invalid. The Brisa then is evidence of the rabbi's position that rabbinical decrees are in force during the twilight period, and of Rebbe's position that they are not. The opinion of Rebbe is accepted as halacha. Look at this, even though the rabbis seemingly are the majority. He says the opinion of Rebbe is accepted as halacha. One may violate a rabbinical precept during the twilight period. However, Rambam in the Laws of Shabbos 24:10 restricts this leniency to cases involving a mitzvah or an urgent or an unusual deed. So that's what we learned in Shulchan Aruch. I don't know if you bought the books.
No, I never got it over there.
This is also the ruling of Shulchan Aruch. Mogen Avrom questions whether Rebbe's ruling applies to the twilight period following the Shabbos as well. See Midrash Mishnah Berurah. So they said halacha like Rebbe, but in practical, actual halacha, the Rambam limits it to mitzvah.
Not all the time that happens.
So this is what is really the halacha? The halacha is a twilight zone. We are giving you permission to take it off the tree if it's twilight zone. That it's meaning usually the rabbinical decree is not to use trees on Shabbos. Since twilight shows twilight zone is not, we're not sure if it's Shabbat or not. So therefore, Rebbe says you're allowed to take it. So he's saying, since the rabbinical decree, you're allowed to. Comes the Rambam and says, no, only if it's a mitzvah. He's limiting the...
But I have a question on practical with that. It needs to be food that you can eat, right? That you put on, it needs to be able to access it, eat it. Now, how do they preserve the food, first of all, right? Because for us, we have to keep it in the fridge, and if it stays out for 2 hours, it has bacteria, and how do they even keep it there for that long?
Well, I think there's a lot of food today that you can have out there for 24. It's not only, it's even less than, you can put it Friday evening, and Shabbat morning you can already eat it. 6 o'clock in the morning you can come and eat it, the time that you walk. But you're not eating it anyway, so it's not made for you to eat. Right. You need to be able to eat it. So it gives you, it turns that area to a private domain, so you can walk.
Able to eat if you don't go eat. What is this?
You can eat it.
But why is this sentence? You're able to eat, but
you don't have the obligation to eat. You don't have the obligation. We can't force you to eat something. But if you wanted to, you should be able to eat it.
What if this happens? You have bread there, right? So bread can stay out. So you have bread.
Yeah, bread, apples, so many things.
But let's just say you get there, right? And now you have the bread. That's all you have. You don't have that. You have the bread. You technically can't eat it until you have to dine, right? So if you don't have water, so you have to prepare water. If you know that you're going to eat, you should prepare water. But halachically, if somebody's stuck and he doesn't have any other way, there's still ways around it.
With the dirt.
Yeah, with the sand.
Sand, doesn't touch the bread directly. But anyway, so the point is, that's the name of the chapter, Bakol Ma'avin, that you can use anything for obviously you use things that are not hard-boiled egg. It's going to be bad after 8 hours. Things still be okay.
When people left things out more, I feel back then. Even growing up, I remember they're always beating stuff out. But here it was it's out for more than 2 hours out of the fridge.
Growing up, we never had vegetables and fruit in the refrigerator. We always had it on the table. You had bread. You ate the bread. The next day it was new bread. Yeah. So they didn't freeze things like they do over here. So over here everything is put away. So you don't see the food you don't want to eat. It's not around. If it's accessible, it's in front of you, you'd eat it. But if you have to start digging the refrigerator for food. anyhow, Amar Ravina Reisha Deis Be'arbo. So having ascertained that the Baisa is the source of the dispute between rabbis and rabbis, the Gemara proceeds to analyze Hai Ilon Echidomi Ideles Be'arbo, if the section upon which the Eruv rests lacks width of 4 Tfachim or Kompturu, it is an exempt area. So Mokim Ptur, we learned before, if you look at the introduction, there's a whole description of what is Mokim Ptur. It's an interesting domain. It's not private, it's not public domain, and it's not Carmelis. It's in like exempt area. An area less than 4 Tfachim wide. If you look at 22, it says an area less than 4 Tfachim wide is not a separate domain. One may carry from there into Reshus HaRabim and into Reshus HaYochid, or the reverse. So the point is, they're telling us that this tree, the Gemara says, this tree mentioned in the Baisa, if it doesn't have 4, if the section is less, and it becomes a Mokum Ptur. Even if the Eruv were placed above 10 Tfachim in such an area, it could be taken off the tree into the Reshus HaRabim below, since the Baisa declares the Eruv invalid due to its inaccessibility, meaning it's not accessible. Clearly it was not placed in an exempt area. And if there is 4, and if the section upon which the Eruv rests has a width of 4 Tfachim, which explains the first ruling of the Baisa, it says in 23, when the Eruv is located on a part of the tree that is 10 Tfachim high and 4 Tfachim wide, it's considered Reshus HaYochid. Hence, it may not be removed to the Reshus HaRabim, to the public domain, even during twilight, and is therefore invalid.
Why even during the twilight? Probably
because it's for sure Reshus HaYochid. Once you establish one thing for sure, it's a problem. So it's for sure Reshus HaYochid, and you're going to take from Reshus HaYochid to Reshus HaRabim. Only doubt that we have whether twilight is Shabbos or not. But once you have one thing for sure, it creates even a worse of an issue. Give an example. Let's say you're not allowed to eat. Let's say you're keeping 6 hours between meat and dairy. So you know for sure the 6 hours went by. Fine, you go eat milk. Now, if it's 5.5 hours went by, and the object that you eat, you're not sure if it's dairy or not.
Okay.
So if you're not sure it's dairy or not, you feel more inclined to eat it because they say it's already 5.5 hours went by, and I'm not even sure that it's dairy, the object that I'm eating. But if you know for sure that it's dairy, you would wait the 6 hours. But you're not sure that it's dairy, it gives you a little bit more. So over here, I know for sure that it becomes, this place is 10 by 4. 10 by 4 is Reshus HaYochid. It's private. So therefore, they say you shouldn't touch it. You shouldn't move it. So it says, when he placed the Eruv in the basket, which is over 10 Tfachim high, what is it that makes the ruling, in this case of the Baisa, more lenient? If the basket hangs on a part of the tree, which is considered a Reshus HaYochid, it's considered private domain, it also enjoys the status of Reshus HaYochid. Hence, removing the Eruv food from the basket would be biblically prohibited, even according to Rabbi. So what he tells us that the basket itself becomes Reshus HaYochid, not only the area, the basket itself becomes. Hence, removing the Eruv food from the basket would be biblically prohibited, even according to Rabbi. Look at 24. It says the basket is considered a Reshus HaYochid, even though it may itself lack the required dimensions of 10 by 4, because of the rule, which means that crevices of the Reshus HaYochid are themselves considered Reshus HaYochid.
So we're saying
if the basket is smaller, but the fact that it's landed, it's situated in a Reshus HaYochid, it becomes a Reshus HaYochid as well.
So the basket thing wouldn't work for us then, on the tree.
Yeah.
That would be the same as having a pole coming out of the tree, right? Basically, like a stick that's coming out of the tree, that would be an extension of it. Right?
Yeah. Part of the tree.
And then it's in the
Like if you like
Reshus-
shove like a big
It's therefore,
pole.
so so therefore, you're in the Harabim, and therefore you can't, it's a transfer, you can't do it.
Amar Ravina, Reisha deis be'arbo. The first part of the Brisa discusses a tree that has a width of 4 tfachim, and since above 10 tfachim is a Reshus HaYochid, one may not remove the Eruv to the Reshus HaRabim below. Seifa deleis be'arbo v'chalkol mashlimos l'arbo. The end of the Brisa referred to a tree that lacks a width of 4 tfachim, and is therefore not a Reshus HaYochid. V'chalkolo mashlimos l'arbo, and the basket completes the width of a total of 4 tfachim. Without the addition of the basket, however, the Eruv would be invalid, even though the tree is not a Reshus HaYochid. So it said in 25, Rabbis follows the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, which the Gemara introduces presently, that an Eruv is invalid unless its resting place is at least 4 tfachim wide. In Rabbi's case, the addition of the basket provides the required width. Rabbi Sovar like Rabbi Meir. Rabbi's view, and Rabbi views the basket as if it had a width of 4 tfachim, because he holds like Rabbi Meir, who is cited below, V'sovar like Rabbi Yehuda, and he requires that the basket have a width of 4 tfachim because he holds like Rabbi Yehuda.
How come we're talking, how come if we said it was that you couldn't transfer between the...
1 second, the Gemara explains. Savar like Rabbi Meir da'omar chekin la'ashlim. He holds like Rabbi Meir, who said elsewhere, choikikin lahashlim, that we imaginarily, right, imagining, carve out a solid edifice, solid building, to achieve the required dimensions. Like the concept of Loved. Here too, we regard that part of the tree adjoining the basket as if it were hollowed out, thereby extending the basket to a width of 4 tfachim. Look at number 2. Actually, since the basket is considered 4 tfachim wide, why? Because it's completing the tree is missing 4 tfachim, but the basket is now completing it. It should constitute a Reshus HaYochid. Should be considered private domain. Hence, the Eruv placed inside should be invalid. Why? Since lowering it into Reshus HaRabim below would be forbidden, because you're taking it from private to public. However, this is not so. Meaning it's not forbidden. Why? In the case under discussion where the basket completes, the basket itself is not 4 tfachim wide. Only at the point where the basket hangs is the width requirement for Reshus HaYochid met. Because the basket is making it now, completing a 4 tfachim area. This case resemble that of a boat whose deck has the proper width and height for Reshus HaYochid, but whose bottom narrows to an area less than 4 tfachim wide. So the Gemara does not regard such a boat as Reshus HaYochid. So it has 4 tfachim on top, and as a boat, it goes down. Doesn't have it in the bottom, so they didn't consider it as a Reshus HaYochid.
So how to be like a cube?
The Gemara in Shabbos 101a does not regard such a boat as a Reshus HaYochid.
How it could be your boat or Reshut Rabim? It's your boat and it's Reshut Rabim?
Yeah.
It's mine.
It remains yours, but if it lacks the dimensions, I cannot treat it as a Reshut HaYochid. Reshut Yachid has to have 10 by 4. And that area does not have it. That's why there is a platoon boats. The platoon boats, if I'm saying it correctly, but they are a flat surface. They have two round things in the bottom, like almost looking like pipes, and it doesn't have that shape of.
But when it goes in at the point of contact with the water, right? It has that. Right, so
Maybe not. I don't know. It says in this case. It says that it has on top. It's in a case of a boat. What did I read? Number 2. It says a boat whose deck has the proper width and height for Shus HaYochid, but whose bottom narrows to an area less than 4 tefachim wide, less than 20 inches, and the Gemara on Shabbos does not regard it as the Shus HaYochid. But why is he mentioning it? Let's see. And he requires that the basket have a width of 4 tefachim because he holds like Rabbi Yehuda, who said, that we require that the Eruv be situated in a place that is at least 4 tefachim wide. So over here you learn another thing, that you can't just place the Eruv upon, let's say, on top of a rock that is a small place. Either you're putting it directly on the ground where you have the 4 by 4, 10 by 4, or you place it on a rock or something that has that width of 4 tefachim. And it says v'leika, and there is not 4 tefachim without taking the width of the basket into account. In this case, that the basket is completing the 4 tefachim area, it says that area did not have it. What do you mean the basket is completing it? The basket is making the area. The basket itself doesn't have it. So, my Rabbi Yehuda, what is the source of Rabbi Yehuda's opinion? The Tanya was taught in a Braita. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda says, someone stuck a beam into the ground of the Reshus HaRabim. So in the middle of a public street, somebody put a pole in the ground, and he placed his Eruv on top of the pole. Imagine, I put it in the middle of the ground. Imagine this is a pole, putting it, and now this is my Eruv, and this is Broadway. People, let's see. It says Korah. What the size of the beam? It doesn't say. But this is a beam. He's stuck in the ground, and he placed it on top. Now, what is the height of it? The width of it? Let's see. Now, and he placed the Eruv on top of the beam. Gavoa Yud v'Rechava Arba. If the beam is 10 tefachim high, there you go. It tells you it's more than 50 inches, or at least 50 inches, 10 tefachim. And 4 tefachim wide, 20 inches width, about. Eruv is valid. Okay, so if that has a width of 20 inches, like you can have a beam.
That's easy, okay.
That has.
But it doesn't say the width of it. Like if you can have something that's that tall and that wide, but it's literally less than a centimeter thick.
Then it's not going to be. You need it to be, in order for it to be private domain, it has to have 10 by 4. So let's say the height. No, that's the circumference of the circumference to be 4. It's going to be almost impossible to find. You have to be find something very big. But if you buy a beam, I think the roof joists, right, are, let's say, 2 by 12. Right? So if we can find something that is 2 by 20.
What does it mean 2 by 20?
The width of it, let's say this is 2. From here to here is 2, and from here to here is 20. If from here to here is 20, that's 4 tefachim. So you have this beam, you put it on the ground, korah, and then you place the eruv on top of it. So what does it say? Eruv is valid eruv. Why? Since it rests on a surface 4 tefachim wide. Ve'im lav, but if it does not have either a height of 10 or a width of 4, ein eruvo eruv. If he is lacking these dimensions of 10 by 4, it's not eruv.
Oh, wait. So this beam becomes Reshut Yachid?
Yeah.
Till when? Till where?
Well, the top of it is now you're using this area on top as a Reshut Yachid.
But like from the sides, the beam is here. The beam is here, so I can go. Reshut Yachid is where? Where is the Reshut Yachid?
Only on top.
If I carry something from here beside the beam to 1 kilometer, no, to
Usually you acquire 4 amot. You have 4 amot in general.
around the beam.
Yeah.
Oh.
Usually you have 4 amot. It's like this is like the case of, if you remember, the case of the well. Of the well. So the enclosure, it gives you about 4 amot. Yeah.
Okay.
Look at number 4. Even though the top of the beam is a Reshut HaYachid, since it possesses the requisite height and width, the Eruv is nevertheless accessible to its owner dwelling in the Reshut HaRabim below, according to the opinion of Rava, that one who places an Eruv gains for himself 4 amot wide area.
Oh.
Yeah, surrounding the Eruv, which is considered a Reshut HaYachid that extends upward indefinitely. Upward there is no end. Hence, the owner and his Eruv are regarded as occupying the same domain. In the case of the Mishnah, however, the Eruv was placed on part of the branch that extends beyond the boundary of his Shabbat residence. It went like the picture that we saw. Hence, the owner could retrieve his Eruv only by venturing into a Reshus HaRabim below the Eruv. So, meaning he goes out of his area. So, if this is the branch, and he placed his right. So let's say this is the tree, right, and this is the branch, right. This is a branch coming from the tree, and this is more than 4. And he placed the Eruv here, right? Place the Eruv now here. So if he goes under to get it, he's already coming out of it, 4 tfachim. So he'll be in Reshut HaRabim instead. The Gemara says, "V'im lav," but if it does not have the height and 10 by 4, it's not an Eruv. Adrabah hu v'eruv mokim echad. If the beam is less than 10 high, the Eruv is surely valid. Why? Because he and his Eruv are in the same place. It says number 5, if the beam is less than 10 tefachim high, the Eruv is regarded as though it were resting in Reshus HaRabim. If the Eruv is considered accessible when the beam is higher than 10 tefachim, and the Eruv is in a Reshus HaYachid, then certainly it is accessible when it is in the airspace of the Reshus HaRabim. So the Gemara want to say that even if it's less, it should be okay, like the Mishnah said. If the beam is 10 tefachim high, its upper surface must be 4 tefachim wide. Again, if the beam is 10 tefachim high, we want the upper surface also to have 4 tefachim wide. But if it's not 10 tefachim high, I'm not requiring the upper surface to be 4 tefachim. Since the Eruv is within 10 tefachim of the ground, in the airspace of Reshus HaRabim, we view the Eruv as though it were resting on the surface of the Reshus HaRabim. Hence, the requirement that the Eruv rest on a significant place is met. Since the Eruv is within 10 tefachim of the ground, or since the Eruv is within 10 tefachim of the ground, in the airspace of the Reshus HaRabim, because it's less than 10, we view the Eruv as though it were resting on the surface of Reshus HaRabim, hence the requirement that the Eruv rest on a significant place is met. Kiman, whose opinion is it that you don't have to have 4 if you have less than 10? You don't have to have 4 width if you have less than 10 high. The local Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda, the time Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda says, no, it's kone b'shus rabim if one stuck a reed, which is like a branch, into the ground of the Shus Rabim, and he placed the basket on top, and he placed on top of the reed a basket 4 tfachim wide, when he threw the object from the Shus Rabim and it landed on the basket, Chav is liable for committing biblical transgression because the basket is considered a Shus HaYochid. So what is the case over here? Again, somebody stuck something into a Shus HaYochid, into a public domain, middle of Broadway. He has a pole, and on top of the pole he is placing now, this is the pole, this is the basket, he's placing a basket, and now he throws something and it lands on the basket. Okay, so landing over here, so this is considered a Shus HaYochid. He's throwing it from public domain to a private domain. He's liable. He's liable for committing a biblical transgression because the basket is considered a Shus HaYochid, public domain, a private domain. It says in number 11, an area 10 tfachim above the surface of a Shus Rabim and 4 tfachim wide is considered a Shus HaYochid because of the Aloch al Moshe Sinai, Sinai principle, good achis mechitzo. What is this rule? What is this principle? Good achis mechitzo. Extend the wall downward, meaning that as if the whole thing is 4 wide. In Rabbi Yossi case, we view the walls of the basket extending down. So even though the pole is not, think of it, this is the pole is not 4 wide, but the basket is 4 wide. So good achis mechitza principle means that this travels down, all the way down, and it's 4 tall, even though it's not. And this was received from Moshe at Sinai. Good achis mechitza.
So if a Jew works at Amazon and delivers boxes and he throws to every house on Shabbat,
He doesn't
driving, but every time he throws the box.
Well, his car is Rishus HaYochid, it's private domain.
But he goes out from his car.
So he takes it from private to public, because if he put a box in front of your door, it's not Rishus HaYochid. In front of your door is still Rishus Rabim.
Only inside.
Right.
Okay.
Depends on the property, right? Depends on the property.
If it's enclosed, but most cases where it's not, when you don't have a gate around it, right? You don't have a gate. If you had a gate, what type of a gate?
Okay. And like for me, it's just a door. It's like an apartment building. It's just that. It is the door right there.
Right. So it's. I don't know, even if legally, if somebody walked into a driveway, you can sue him for going to a driveway? I don't know.
Well, I know you can't.
Unless you warned him not to, he purposely asked, but...
I don't know, look, the mailman look, you could have the mailbox by your door, and you have to walk up the driveway to get to the door to put the mail in. So
but that's, remember we had a discussion about multiple violations of Shabbos, if it's considered one violation or many. Where he drives the car, every time he hit the brakes, the lights goes on and off, blinkers, windshield wipers, stops the car, starts the car, stops the car, starts the car back and forth.
Well, I mean, the combustions, there's like 1,000 per second that are happening.
Well, every time he pressed the pedal, pushed the pedal, and he's now injecting more fuel into the engine and it's burning. So
what if we had one in a golf cart with electric?
Yeah, were you burning electricity?
Well, we had people that had this.
Well, that has
Shabbos car.
It's a Shabbos mode.
But it's special. But it's a special thing. It was made by.
I I know.
a lot of rabbis figuring out exactly how to. But it's not even for use for everyone. It's only for people who really can't walk.
Right.
But that's what's called Elam Echod. Elam Echod is one awareness. They're not. Very few people in our generation you can call them apikoros. Today is more Amaretz than apikoros. Amaretz is commoners. They don't know, and even if they know, what is the extent of their knowledge?
But
How deep their knowledge is? How deep their understanding is?
But you're not gonna be asked like after 120. Why did you never go to the synagogue? Ask for it's your religion. Oh, I don't know. That's it. I don't know.
No, a guy can say to God, listen, number one, you made me born in the United States. Number two, my parents were not religious. Number three, my parents put me in a non-Jewish school.
So
Number
bring
four,
the guilty on the others.
on
not-
God.
What about you?
on God. God placed you in these places. Of course, you're telling God, listen, you put me in a public school. My father didn't do a bar mitzvah for me. He never put on tefillin on me. What do you want for my life? If you want me to be religious, you could have made me born in Bnei Brak. Why did you make me born in Boca Raton? Question is on God.
I don't
No,
think it's
no, no, no.
Rabbi, because till
Why are you killing the guy for?
till 15, I agree with you.
No, even till 50, because if he's not exposed to it, what do you want from his life?
Go for it. You don't
Why
have
should
to
he go for it? What if
You're
what if he
Jewish.
doesn't know that he's Jewish? What if he doesn't know what it
That is
means?
different. That is different.
But what if he doesn't know what it means? Like
If
the
he
guy
doesn't know, it's
the guy who
different.
came today, right?
Okay.
Told me both of my parents are Israelis, but I don't know anything. I don't know how to read. I don't know Aleph Bet.
Okay.
A guy 25, 30 years old, never learned Aleph Bet. What you gonna ask? What are you gonna ask of him?
Start right now.
So why? I don't know what it means.
Because you are Jewish.
But I don't know what it means to be
You
a
know what? He
Jew.
has to get that. You know what? You can't put that out of the. It has to come to him.
Yeah,
Don't do this.
no, he's not doing anything. What
I'm
do you
not
want?
doing
He's just
that.
having a
Just-
conversation.
No, but I'm saying the guy. Listen, the guy.
He's not
listen,
I
doing
treat him as a flower.
No, the guy. I don't know what he
I
came.
just think like
He
this.
came to.
No,
what did he come
that's
for?
why it's a shame. It's called it's Baruch Dayan Ha'emet. What is Ha'emet? True, a real. What is truth? What is truth? Truth is not black and white. Hashem's truth is the ultimate truth. Why? Because He can see is everything. He can be a Dayan. We cannot be a Dayan. He is the Dayan Ha'emet, not we. We're not Dayan Ha'emet. He is the judge. Why? Because He can see all the different circumstances. And you might be right. You might say, well, you had a neighbor that was religious and he spoke to you, and why didn't you listen to him?
Internet. We have everything now.
Yeah, but
It's a lot of
but
different ways.
it's like if someone is going to say, I wanted to learn, but I didn't have anybody to teach me, so you can say, well, you had the internet, you can answer it. But how can you come to a guy that didn't even know to look in the internet? So in the internet, you need to know what to look for, right? On Google.
Today,
I'm taking somebody completely ignorant and I'm putting Google in front of him, meaning the whole world is in front of him. He can have all the knowledge of the world. But you need to know what to look for.
But Rabbi,
To
you're
ask.
being too lenient. Everybody knows. My child has 12 years old. He knows. This guy knows also. I'm not judging him.
But your child goes to a Jewish
No,
school.
you
His
don't
parents
have
are
the you don't
very
have the
traditional.
excuse. You don't have the excuse. I don't know internet. Listen, we are.
No, he says I know internet, but instead of I look for NASCARs. You gave me internet to look for NASCARs, for soccer games, for
But then
this,
it's
for
up
that.
to you. You decided to go for it.
No, but you
Instead
never
of
told me. You never taught me to look for Torah. You never taught me to look for Judaism. If your parents are Jewish and I tell you, we were raised up as Jewish people to listen to our parents. Everybody, not Jews, non-Jews. You follow your parents whether you want it or
If I
not.
follow my parents, I will not be religious.
No, I think because your parents, as much as they were not religious, they still had certain things. They
sure.
had Pesach,
For sure.
Kiddush.
For sure.
If they did not give you these things, you need to ask yourself, would I still be here today?
Okay, I agree.
If you're honest with yourself and you say, if my father would
I
have
agree.
never wear kippah, would never walk to synagogue, would never say
agree.
Kaddish,
I agree.
then you would never be here. You would probably still be wandering around.
But that makes
And-
sense, Rabbi. The problem is if your father, your mother, if your father's a rabbi, or like you grew up literally in shul your whole life. That's what I think
Right.
is a little more.
That's what I said today. There's no apikos. There's Am Haaretz. He doesn't know. Now, when I said Dayana Emet, Hashem has your whole life in front of him, right? So every single second he knows. So if Hashem, like we say in Hasidut, had itaruta delayla, he put in front of you a situation where you should have been woken up. Like he put it in front of you. Let's say he put a rabbi in front of you, and he put a neighbor, he put somebody that told you the importance, explained to you, and you walked away time after time. He can say to you, but a guy that Hashem never put the opportunity in front of his face, what do you, as Hashem can tell him, why didn't you do it? You took it. You have to be.
This case is different. Okay.
Yeah, and unfortunately, many cases are like that. They don't get a chance. Like a guy never had a chance to put on tefillin because his parents did. Now, I'm not blaming his parents because his parents maybe didn't know. Also, you understand? His parents were pushed away.
I don't understand. That's the problem. I don't understand.
Right.
How the parents doesn't teach.
Somebody could
Right.
be,
And can we?
Somebody
and-
could be in
and-
Dubuque, Iowa. I'm just taking the name because I don't. It's out in Nowheresville. I don't know who's there, but someplace where, or I don't know, by Lake Okeechobee. But Lake Okeechobee, and it's all full of farm workers, not Jewish.
It's different.
And the guy is living there, and he has a 7-Eleven, and he doesn't know squat.
I
And what are
agree
you
with
going to
you.
do with the guy?
I agree, but this guy is a Boca.
Listen, you know what? Till 120, I want Hashem to give me a break, and I want Him to give you a break. We all know we got our little husbands. Don't look to make trouble for the next guy.
Yeah, that's again. This is why the only one that can really judge is Hashem, because we don't know what. And also, how can we? If you think about Holocaust survivors, what can you tell them? People that went through such horrible things. You think that when the Rebbe said this is the generational Mashiach, he didn't say the generational Mashiach because of our extreme practice of Judaism and how everybody is keeping Shabbat, is doing these things. It's not. It's because today you can't really come to people and complain to them after everything that they went through. Obviously, there are some people that they know and still doing, but they're very few. And how can, if somebody sinned, right? You can tell Hashem, listen, you put in front of me, look at this phone. They have all these things on the phone. It's so accessible. What do you want from my life? If everything is so accessible, you don't. Hashem, on one hand, does not want us to live in a cocoon. He doesn't want us to close ourselves in a room and not to be engaged with the world. He wants us to be engaged. That's why He put us in the world. Otherwise, He would keep us maybe create us as an angels or other things. So He put me in a world, physical world, heavy-duty physical world, with all the little things, with all the gadgets, with all the stupidity around me. So a guy cannot say, "Listen, what do you want from me?" Still, there's always, you can control it, but one of the things that it says in the Gemara, that Hashem regrets for creating Yetzirah. He regrets. There's a whole discussion that the neshama would blame the body would blame the neshama, and then ultimately would blame Adam HaRishon, say for the original sin that you did. But
Also, remember we learned in one Gemara that I think Moshe tells to Hashem, we did the golden calf because you gave us gold.
you gave us gold, yeah.
So I think it was something
Right. But Chassidut also tells us that a lot of the physical things that comes to the world, they're coming from the image of the ox, the Penei Shor. Right? There's the prophecy of Yechezkel. You have the ox, the eagle, the lion. So it says that physical things come from the image of the ox. So they thought in their mind, okay, we're getting it from the ox. So we should also bow to him. We should also praise the ox. So it's not so simple because we're not dealing with stupid people. It's not ignorant people that do these things.
No, just the example that Shmuel gave, that the guy that lives in Okeechobee, I
Yeah.
agree 100% with you and the guy. Doesn't come all your life to the synagogue, you good. But my example is a guy that lives in a place that has synagogues. His father puts tefillin, so he receives something, and his option is not to go to this. That's my example.
Right.
This
You
guy,
don't know. Listen. You know what? You just don't know what's in it. What is it? All of his experiences.
Yeah, but some parents don't know how to give it over to their kids.
Sometimes the guys.
So that's the
sometimes
point.
the guys.
I'm not going to give to the parents.
No.
You have to do something.
But you know
No,
what?
but
You
if your
got-
father
you know
doesn't
what?
know how to give it to you,
You
it's
have
his
to
fault,
have-
Go
no?
to the synagogue.
no, but he doesn't know how to give it to you. If let's say a father forces his son to go to the synagogue, if he forces his son to go to the synagogue, so in his heart, he is building resentment to the synagogue. So when he grows up and he got to an age where he can tell his father, "Go blow. I don't need you. I don't need your money. I'm comfortable. I have money. I have car. I have a house. I don't need you. So take a walk, you and your religion." Right? He'll tell his father, "Take a
Well,
walk,"
I did it for
because
30 years.
because he never ever introduced to Yiddishkeit in an authentic way, in a real way.
Because
his father doesn't know it.
You know, like my parents, they made me go to the Hebrew. You know, after you go to public school, then you go for 2 hours to the Hebrew school. You know, I don't know, the conservative, and I don't know, they teach the Aleph Beis, a little history, a little whatever. I hated it. My brothers hated it.
But what you did, you
Yeah,
went by
okay,
yourself, then you come through by yourself. That's the point.
Yeah, somehow.
Because Hashem woke him up. Hashem woke him up.
But listen, I
So-
have.
Hashem won't
So
tell you.
listen,
It's different
I
for
have-
Rabbi to
I
understand
have-
this.
I
Hashem
have-
won't tell you.
I
You
have-
have to
but
wake
listen,
up.
No.
I know Hashem gives you power.
Most of the people who became al tshuva, they had an awakening. They had a calling from above. They
No,
either
I
saw some miracle in front of their face.
I know.
Things were happening that were not the usual things that happen.
And my brothers, my brother is in China. He doesn't. He's way out of the box with this stuff. The other one, he was married out twice. He got divorced the second time now. I realized that him and I, we have each other. I mean, my mother's like 96, whatever. So, but I don't know if he'll ever put on the mezuzah or do the tefillin. But I realize he's my brother, so I have to love him. It took me 72 years to realize this, to tell you the truth, because I didn't get along.
But you tell him to put on mezuzah?
You know what?
You told him?
I can tell him a little bit, but it has to come to him. And I'm not gonna, whatever happens with him, God forbid, till 120, he's all right. I'm not gonna, you know what? It says in the Park Yoga, you gotta be in the other person's shoes. You don't know everything about the other person. Look favorably in every person.
I look.
I know,
I just
but
have
you
questions.
keep knocking.
No, I have questions.
I don't have so much.
I don't accept like this. So these guys, no, because I know many people that they had
Don't.
religion.
You know what? I had a
They
boss.
don't go.
I
They
had
don't go.
I had a boss. He said, "Don't look for the hair on the egg."
Right? It's hard for us to see when you live a certain lifestyle. It's hard for you to understand how can people completely, drive on Yom Kippur and things like that. It's very hard.
Rabbi, I did this, so I know. I think I know a little bit more better than you, because you never been in this. I have been many years like this.
So you should be able to understand more
I understand
their
more,
side.
But I moved. I moved to the next step. I have to make effort.
So
when people
should
doesn't
look-
make
you should
effort,
look at the ones that
Yeah,
it bothers me.
but they're unable to. They're not yet in a level where they can
I
do it.
understand, but you have to make little steps. Little steps. Don't you have to pray 1 hour?
So maybe they do it. Maybe they do the little. For them, a little step is to come to the shul
agree.
on Yom Kippur.
I agree.
But they come with a car, so they made the step because they could have gone to McDonald's
I agree,
on Yom
Robert, I
Kippur.
agree.
They decided not to go to McDonald's, so
I
they
agree.
came here.
But I think, in my opinion, it comes a lot of como fala preguiça? Laziness.
Also,
In my opinion.
but
my opinion.
they say that Tony Robbins once said that there's no such a thing as lazy people. There's such a thing as uninspired people. Meaning that if you are inspired about something, you're not lazy anymore. What is the example? If I tell you tomorrow you have a trip to Hawaii, let's say you like Hawaii.
Like 3 a.m.
3 a.m., you wake up, no problem, you're not feeling tired, you jump out of bed. Why? Because you're inspired, you're excited. So if somebody is inspired about Judaism, he's not going to be lazy. He's going to wake up, he's vantishul. If you're inspired, I don't know, big Rabbi is going to come to speak tomorrow at 5 a.m. You'll be inspired, you know that it's going to be an unbelievable event, you'll come. The moment that we're not inspired, and if there's nobody that inspiring, then why should they come? Like the guy today, he was inspired because it's his father's yahrzeit. So he said, I'm not religious, I'm doing it for my father. I don't know from beans, my mother told me today is the yahrzeit, I came. But once he was there, he was already inspired. You see? But he needed that inspiration. Without inspiration, people will do nothing. If you're not inspired to go out of your bed, you're not going to go out of your bed. There's got to be things that you want to do. People are depressed. Why they stay in bed? Because they're not inspired to do anything. It's not that lazy. They're not comfortable being in bed. It's a punishment for them to be in bed.
Okay.
They're not enjoying being in bed and watching TV and wasting their time. Nobody wastes his time at the end of the day and he feels satisfied.
How you get
People feel satisfied only when they accomplish things, right? If you accomplish things, you go. It says, Yafa nata amel. If somebody is amel, is working hard, he sleeps good at night because he knows the day was full of achievements, of accomplishments, of pursuing things. He did. If people are not inspired, then our job is to inspire other people.
So the inspiration comes from others.
From Hashem. Hashem inspire. Everything comes from Hashem. So if you ended up inspiring somebody, Hashem sent you and sent him and made him listen to you and you inspired him. But he chooses whether to take the inspiration
Or not.
to be inspired by it or not. But maybe sometimes he's not inspired because you didn't put enough effort. Like we learned in Tanya in the last couple of days, you have to be very real about the message yourself that you're trying to give to someone else. If the message is not real in you, then you can't really give it to your children. That's why a lot of parents, you say, the example that you said, a guy puts on tefillin, and he tells his son to put on tefillin also. But if the father himself was not 100% with himself, excited to put on tefillin, to do the mitzvah, then his son says, my father just doing because he has to or whatever, I don't have to. Like a guy came to the Rebbe and he said he had a private audience, one-on-one with the Rebbe. So he asked the Rebbe, how come his children are not religious? He said, I'm religious, I did everything right, my children are not religious. How come? So the Rebbe told them something amazing, like, I don't know how the Rebbe knew it. The Rebbe told them, stop saying to shver, something like he was saying in Yiddish, it was a Polish or a Russian Jew, he was saying in Yiddish, to shver zayin ayid, something like, which would mean, he kept on saying throughout his life, in the upbringing of his children,
how difficult it is to be a Jew.
Hard to be a Jew. It's difficult to be a Jew.
So
the kids are hearing it, they say, if it's difficult to be a Jew, why should we become a Jew? Why should we a Jew your whole life? But they say, I don't have to be a Jew per se. I'm born a Jew, but I don't have to practice this being a Jew. You understand? So there's something like small nuances that you give over your kids, and they say, it's difficult, it's hard, and they say, it's difficult. Okay, when I have a chance, I won't do it.
Easy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have to say something. Now you reminded me of something that I should remember. I had a couple, and this woman, Ruth Levinson, and her husband, Jack. Her yahrzeit was right around now, and he died on the second day of Rosh Hashanah. She sat where when my job was, she sat where Pinchas is, and I was doing my job. She was the president of the conservative shul in Hillside. And they were very schwach, and she was selling the shul to the Orthodox, to the Chabad, to Rabbi Kanowski, who was my rabbi for 20-odd years. So I heard her do the whole transaction from here to there on the phone, because we were able to deliver whatever the phones with the government. So anyway, meanwhile, she stayed with the shul after it became Orthodox. And she started going to a shiur on the Parsha, Shuvua. And she invited me one day to go to that shiur. And I went to the shiur with her one day. For some reason I did. And then everything happened after that. And they lent me the money to make the shidduch, which my wife. So I have to give them all credit, and hopefully in Shemayim.
So look at this. Hashem is making the conservative shul go bankrupt. The Chabad rabbi buys the shul. No, wait. Chabad rabbis buys the shul from a lady that worked close to Shmuel. That lady was conservative, but started going to the Orthodox shul because it's now owned by Orthodox. And now she's inviting Shmuel to come to the class, and now he's inspired. You understand? So it has to be, that has to be Hashem. There's no such a thing can happen haphazardly.
Nobody's guilty. According to this, nobody's guilty.
Why do you think we are commanded to love every Jew? Because deep inside they're all beautiful. The Gemara tells us they're all
like
full.
the pomegranate.
They're all full of mitzvahs like a pomegranate. Remember there was a story about it's connected now, that a guy came to the Baal Shem Tov. He said, teach me the laws of, teach me the kavanot of blowing the shofar. There's a lot of things to meditate when you blow the shofar. So the Baal Shem Tov kept on pushing him off. Every year he came, he said, I want to know what to think about. And so one year the Baal Shem Tov told him, okay, you have to have the kavanah to love every single Jew. So he said, for that, I waited all these years. You could have told it to me a long time ago. What's the big thing? So he told, I want to tell you a story. So he's telling him a story about a farmer who went one day, woke up, I think he spoke about farmers living far away. So he woke up one day and he walks to the market. He gets to the market and he sees the whole market is closed. So he looked for found a guy. He says, why is a goy? He says, ask the goy, why is the market is closed? Where is everybody? He said, today is the Jewish holiday, Yom Kippur. The goy is telling the Jew, it's the Jewish holiday, Yom Kippur. So he said, what happened on Yom Kippur? He said, they all go to the place where they pray, the synagogue, and that's where they all are. So okay. So he goes back home. He tells his wife, I couldn't buy anything. Market is closed because I was told it's Yom Kippur. It's the day that everybody goes to a synagogue. So why don't we go? Maybe we should go also. So she said, fine, but we didn't eat lunch. So he said, but the market was closed. You didn't buy any food. So okay, so he goes outside. He goes to the forest and he hunts a rabbit. He catches a rabbit, brings it home, skins it. And all this, Baal Shem Tov tells the story to this rabbi that wants to know the kavanot of the shofar. Okay, so he cuts the rabbit, they fry it, they barbecue, they eat it, and then he goes to shul. He comes to shul, he sees everybody's wearing beautiful clothing, and he says, I'm not wearing it. He comes with his t-shirt, right? So he says to his wife, we can't go into the shul, they're all wearing nice clothing. She says, okay, but what do they do in shul? They pray. So let's make a quick prayer before we leave. Hashem, everything was beautiful last year. Keep it up. Keep the good work we want to have. So the Hashem says to this guy, can you love this Jew? So he says, no, this type of a Jew I can't love. So he said, this is what you have to learn. To love even a Jew that is so distant, that is so far.
I love. Don't think that I.
No, I know.
I just want to understand. I want to understand. I love every Jew.
Maybe you should love him without understanding.
No, I want explanations.
No, it's fine. He's not putting them down. I understand where you're coming from. No, I completely understand you. But we have to be. The one thing you have to be careful is that if we feel that it could create a feeling that, oh, I'm better than him because I'm doing this or he's doing that.
Because I was very bad, so I know my level.
Yeah. We don't know. Also, could be that something that inspires you doesn't inspire someone else.
Yeah.
So it takes time until a person sometimes have to go through many journeys
Stages,
until he gets the right word and the right time.
It's true.
And you say, oh, but that would inspire them. But no, it's accumulation of all the things, all the experiences that all come together that caused it.
I understand. Like me, it happened with me. I know.
It's definitely not black and white, like you said, right?
Right.
And it's almost even easier to look at it with another Jew because you can't say, okay, he's like a pomegranate full of mitzvot. But from my issue I had was, coming from a non-Jewish background, and then at that point, it's at first I have a lot of anger against just Orthodox Judaism. For how come no one came up to me to tell me? I was someone who was so in love with Hashem. My whole life, always wanted to be, close to Hashem. No one, if they all knew the truth, no one had the heart to just, let me know, hey, I know you love Hashem so much, but you're just doing it wrong. How about this? Look at this. And no one had the decency to try to, reach out to someone who just already loves Hashem and wants to do it. There's so many people that give their life for Hashem, but they don't even know. They have no idea what they're doing. No one, there was, I didn't even know there was this, oral Torah. I didn't even know it existed, oral Torah. That never, I heard of Torah, but even that was already kind of diluted. But still, it's, so when we look at Jews, it's one thing, but there's also so many people out there. We're not in the business of being missionaries, right? So
Right.
But it's different because from where I come from, I was like, well, if we knew something that someone else didn't and we could benefit them, then why not share
Right.
that? And so.
No, I
It's
think in today's time we should be more find ways to reach out to more people, take advantage of the media and find ways to reach out to these people that at least start with Jews that are looking for, maybe not even looking, but to tell them that they should try to maybe look for something else. But all these things, it's money, like putting advertising, put advertisements on Facebook, on Instagram, so maybe they will stumble upon it and will. How do you get to people like this guy, for example? Somebody that both parents are Jewish, and but his parents sent him to a public school. 99.9% of his friends are not religious and not Jewish. How do you get to these people now at the age where they're getting married? It's already a second generation here. They're getting married, and possibly, hopefully not, but let's say they even. How do you get to these people that they're so far? They don't even know how to read. They don't know how to read Hebrew. They don't know how to open the siddur. So it's almost they have to create a whole new minyan for people like that. So they should feel. I told them just to say Shema, and to practice the Kaddish. For the time will come, they need to say Kaddish. I said just practice it, say Shema, and that was it. And now the whole time was spent on just practicing the Kaddish, so you would know how to say it.
Wow.
What?
I said, oh wow, I didn't know what made him come today?
His mother texted him that it's his father's Yotzai today, 21 of Elul.
The guy he's the one that got the Aliyah,
Yes.
Israeli.
Yeah.
It must have been his first.
The rabbi didn't want to give him Aliyah because he was wearing a short. But I said, look, the guy never got Aliyah in his life.
Good.
So I think you should give him, but do whatever you want. So the rabbi said, fine, I'll give him Aliyah. It's better that somebody.
He cried. Wow.
Yeah.
Touches me.
Yeah.
Was his first yurtzeit or something?
Yes.
That's tough.
Imagine the neshama.
Yeah.
To receive
I'm
this
sure his
Kaddish.
father was very happy.
Wow.
I'm sure his father in heaven was very happy. And I'm sure his parents, they themselves probably didn't know that that's what they need to give him. If they would have known, I'm sure they would give him more Yiddishkeit, but they didn't know. A lot of Israelis, their parents were grandparents were Holocaust survivors, and or the environment was that we have.
Military that was like we fought the war. It was
We have to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, they love Israel.
No, saying if we were not protected in the Holocaust, then we got to take care of ourselves. We take care of us. Who knows? It's very hard to figure out what is what.
Inspiration, like you said, is a key aspect. I mean, there's things that inspired me that I was able to, Hashem just showed. It's literally Hashem, and Hashem had to open my eyes. And I remember the moment when Hashem opened. It's like I did do the effort, but even doing the effort didn't do anything until Hashem opened my eyes. Like, it had to happen. And things that for me is so clear, and proves that like the New Testament has mistakes, and this and like I have like so many of them. All I needed was one of them. Once I heard one of them, I was already completely satisfied. But I've told people, even my family, like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mistakes, and still, with the one, I was already inspired to leave it on.
Right. No, there was a build-up for you. There was still a build-up for a bunch of other things. To get the message, we think, we just heard it once. It's like I'm telling you, if I'll take a student that is very into science. His whole life he was into science, and now I'm putting it in front of a professor who tells him one thing and he gets it. You say, well, he just heard it one time and he got it. No, but his whole life he was into it. His whole life was already a preparation for that one statement that he heard. So if you live a life that you're trying to be close to Hashem the whole time and you just then hear the message, you're already a vehicle for this. You're already receptive. You can take it. But if a guy has never had it, you can talk to him from here till the wazoo. It's not going to work. What?
It doesn't go in.
Yeah.
You have to watch how Facebook and YouTube market. Like you're watching, like I watch the stuff about the phones, whatever. They're always popping something in that I asked a question about. Let's say I asked about the Fizbos. I'm going to get 100 messages about how you can buy a Fizbo.
Right.
But if you look for Shurim, always comes
No, but the point, I'm trying to make the point that like after a while, you're going to open the next screen up. And it's the same thing with Yiddishkeit. They were banging, somebody was banging me with the little stories of the Parsha on Facebook. So they keep doing this. So it's a lot of market. Listen, the Rebbe was the best marketer.
That's example.
So let's finish. It says in the bottom of 33b1, it says Afilu Tema Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda. The right column on 33b1. It says Afilu Tema Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda. You could even say that Ravina's interpretation accords with Rabbi Yossi, the son of Rabbi Yehuda. Hosom Hador and Mechitzos. So there, the imaginary walls which extend downward, like example of the basket, entirely surround the reed, thereby enclosing an area of 4 by 4 tfachim wide along their entire height. Here, in the case explained by Ravina, the imaginary walls of the basket do not surround the tree. Its walls do not surround the area 4 by 4 tfachim. So, unless the principle of chokekin la'ashlim, hollowing out the tree, is applied as well. Even Rabbi Yossi, the son of Rabbi Yehuda, would agree that we do not say gud achis, that the walls of the basket extend down to the ground. This is, it says in 12, here, in order to render the basket to a Reshut HaYachid, we must apply the Halacha L'Moshe Misinai, the Siniatic concept, gud achis, which allows us to view the basket's wall as extending downward, and chokekin la'ashlim, which allows the extension of the basket width to 4 tfachim. However, more than one Siniatic rule not be applied simultaneously to one case. You can't use both chokekin la'ashlim and gud achis. Anyhow, the Gemara now offers an alternative explanation of the last part of the Baita in 33a. The Gemara had sought to ascertain the width of the tree. If it were 4 tfachim, the basket would be considered a crevice of the Reshus HaYachid, and an eruv placed inside it, or inside, is invalid. Contrary to the Baisa's ruling, the Gemara now explains how, indeed, the tree can be 4 tfachim wide, and yet the eruv is valid. The case of the basket is different. Since the Mishnah speaks of a long basket, he can tilt one end of it downward and bring it within the 10 tfachim of the ground, and then remove the eruv without violating a biblical injunction. The eruv is therefore valid since it is accessible during the twilight period. Yosef of Papa was sitting and relating this explanation of Abirmia. So Rav Bar Shva asked Rav Papa a question from the following Mishnah. How should one proceed when Yom Tov falls on Friday and he wishes to make Yeruvit Chumim for both Yom Tov and Shabbos? He should take the Eruv on the eve of the first day, late Thursday afternoon, to the place he wishes to establish as his Shabbos residence for Yom Tov, and stay with it until nightfall. And then take it and go. Basheni, on the eve of the second day, Friday afternoon, he should return with the Eruv to that place and stay with it until nightfall, and then eat it and go. So this is obviously a very interesting case of Yom Tov that falls on Shabbos. We'll discuss tomorrow, God willing.
Sure.